what is beautiful? I think one of the most beautiful ads in the history of ads to me is Squatty Potty. Like the unicorn on a conveyor belt pooping out ice cream onto a cone. Like, and the fact that like this little plastic stool had this weird, disgusting sort of ad that resonated with millions of people. It was so weird. It was so off-putting.
You're listening to Creative Leadership with Heart, a podcast that inspires people to take action and be the leader they were born to be. I'm Coach Rico, and I'm known for coaching and training executives, leaders, founders, and high performers at Fortune 100 businesses, startups, and more. I'm a 20-year creative executive, leadership and life coach, author, speaker, and serial entrepreneur. I'm here to answer your questions about leadership and personal development while also asking you questions that can unlock your untapped potential. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. Today, a good friend of mine, Eric Jackson. He is a growth marketing consultant, formerly of Outschool. That's where we met. Also did some time at Sunbasket and Planned Parenthood, just to name a few. Serial entrepreneur. I don't know if the sweater you're wearing is yours. You still owe me one. But he's now consulting with startups, established businesses, helping them to deploy their own growth strategies. So, Eric, welcome.
Hi. I'm like nervous. I talked to you and I worked with you for like a year and a half, but you're so cool. You have like a great podcast voice. And I'm like, okay, let me like show up. Let me sit up in my chair. And yes, this is the sweater that I had, and I do owe you one, and I will get you one. I will get it to you in the next. Give me like a month. Give me a month and a half.
Yeah, no worries. And I'm going to pay you for it. So, and the podcast voice is all about the mic.
Okay.
So
step it up, AirPods.
Jumping right in. So today's show is a little bit of a different perspective, right? Because you, and we talked about this before, you work alongside a lot of creatives. So even though this podcast is called Creative Leadership with a Heart, it's great to get the perspective on how to collaborate with creatives. And you and I worked closely together for our entire time at Outschool. So I've been looking forward to this conversation. But before getting into that, let's get to know you a little bit. What made you get into marketing? What was the moment, or what was the thing that you decided, hey, I'm going to be a marketer?
So there are two things. One speaks to my pragmatism, and then the other speaks to my sort of creativity or curiosity. The first is I was in college, and it was freshman year, and I was taking, I'd studied international business because I moved around a whole bunch, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool to like travel the world and do business. But then I saw that I had to take 4 years of a language, and I just am horrible at languages. And so I started looking at the different things under the School of Business because you could transition majors. And as I looked through all of them, I was like, no. And then I came down to marketing and I started thinking of those really cool Target ads that were going back in the day when I was in college many years ago. And I was like, oh, I would love to like create those ads. So marketing, that's the one. Now, looking back, 18-year-old Eric should have understood the difference between marketing and advertising, but I think it's like worked out well because I've gotten to work with people who create those types of cool ads.
Nice. I'd love to hear. Well, one, is there a specific ad? Was it the Target ads? Was there a specific ad where you're like, ooh, that's what I want to do?
Yeah, there was this bullseye ad. So this is when they used to have the dog out, and they basically had this bullseye ad that was like a piece of paper and a cartoon, and it sort of like crumpled up and then poked through, and it became like reality. And so as a super duper little black nerd back when it wasn't cool, who was like reading comics and doing these things and writing my own sort of pictures and stuff like that, I always had this like desire to live in art, to like live in these things that are created. And I remember seeing that ad and seeing them sort of draw up the target, draw up the aisles, draw up like the bullseye, the dog, and then it became real. And I was like, oh, okay, that's how I live in art. Like I create art that I can live in. And so that was the one that sort of like stuck out to me. And now I try to do that in like different ways. But yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. You are one of the most, I think, up to date, because every time we would meet, you always knew like all these different companies, all the cool stuff they were doing. So now transitioning into a little bit about, well, let's talk a little bit about you first before I do that. So, what's your personal mission when it comes to marketing, advertising, creative? Like, what do you go out in the world to do?
I want to make the world better. And I think that that has evolved over time about like what making the world better is. But I had this thing from my therapist, Dr. Darwish, who like is a walking angel. And he started this program during COVID, which was essentially like this viral movement. And he was sort of comparing like the way that you do good can spread and show up in an infinite amount of ways. And the way that a virus spreads is very similar to the way that good spreads. And as we looked at COVID, we see all of this bad that's happening, but we also see all of this good that is getting picked up worldwide, right? Like the clapping for that happened in one town, in one city, one time. And it became a global thing of showing care and appreciation for essential workers. And so when I think of marketing, when I think of advertising, when I think of what we do, it is our job to connect people with something that they need. If we're lucky, sometimes it's not connecting them with something that they need, but quite often something that they need or something that's going to make their life better. And when we bump up against the noise, the friction, the blockers, I try to take sort of a human or empathetic perspective of that. Is like, when am I open? When do I want to hear? When do I want to like hear this thing, right? Like, not to dig too deep into my personal life, but like I live for therapy. I love therapy, but I wasn't ready for therapy until I had like an ex-girlfriend who was like, you need therapy. Like, you gotta go and you need to go now. And I was like, okay. So at that moment I was ready, and God, I wish I would have been doing it my whole life. And so, similarly, when I think of products like OutSchool, when I think of products like Planned Parenthood, when I think of Sunbasket, when I think of places that I've been really lucky to work, Autolist, et cetera, is that like, you need education, you need time alone, you need a car, you need a meal, you need to sit, you need to breathe, you need to calm down. But like, maybe you're just not ready for it right now. And it's my job to be like, hey, now's the time. Like, now's the time to spend your money.
For the help that maybe you need and didn't necessarily know you needed it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with that being said, that's a good segue. So, at those places, you had to work with or even develop the creative yourself. So,
Mhm.
for folks who listen to this, mostly coming into it from a creative perspective, not necessarily the stakeholder perspective. So, what are the things for you that have worked well when you know it was working well, and what are the things that you knew when it wasn't working well, and what can you
Mm.
share with the audience?
I think there is I would love to update the term stakeholder, right? Like, it changes the relationship. It is, sure, it is my job to run an ad. It is my job so I work primarily in performance marketing, right? So it's my job to run a Facebook ad. It's my job to run a Google ad. And I can look back to my time at Sunbasket, and I'm not going to take any ounce of credit for this. This is Tyler McNiven and Amy Endeman, who Amy Endeman is one of the just most brilliant people walking this earth in marketing. And Amy was like our head of marketing, and we were being pushed. This was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, back when Facebook was grimy and rough, and you're running 50 ads a day trying to hack the algorithm, growth hacking, all this other stuff. And our CEO was like, more, spend more money, do this more efficiently. And Amy was the one going to bat, being like, better creative, more creative, faster creative. And so we had an organic creative team that was essentially creating stuff on our website, content, videos. It was a food thing. We had beautiful food photography, and we really were building up a brand and a lifestyle. But there wasn't a lot of like traction happening there, right? That's slow, that takes time. And we have this really talented team of shooters and editors, and by shooters and editors, a shooter, an editor, and Tyler, who is this brilliantly creative co-founder. And essentially, Amy, doing the work, said, hey, this team, now you're going to do performance marketing. And that team shifted to doing performance marketing. And this is where I push back on stakeholders, right? Like, it wasn't you're doing this for us. This is what is critical for the business. We are all stakeholders. This is where the majority of our money is going. This is what's bringing in the dollars, making sure that we all get paid and like have a place to sleep at night. And so like, we're all going to focus on this. And once we all sort of focused on this, it was easy to find the incentives to get them excited. And so, great. Hey, that ad that you created drove $1 million of revenue for this business. That ad you created has driven 400 different comments. People love it. People hate it. Like that. And I think when you're creative, when you're an artist, like that type of thing, I think there still is that fundamental like need for validation. I have it. I think we all have it. And it's like, cool. Maybe it's not this super gorgeous ad age ad that like break through and you're Don Draper, but it is like, yo, guys, we just made $5 million off of the 15-second video that you shot. Like, that's pretty dope. Good.
Yeah, I love that. I love the reframing or actually elimination of stakeholder, right? Because really it's a partner collaboration.
Yeah.
And I also love the fact, like, and not everybody is this way, but I had somebody on, last year. His name was Ram. He was on my team at Netflix, and he was, as a creative before, was precious with things. And I think this is the trap that most creatives fall into, that end up working for like a company or do in-house things like that, is they fall in love with this idea that everything they create is going to be this beautiful work of art, right? But what Ram said it best, he said, no, that's not what you're doing. You're actually creating something that's hopefully going to entice someone to do something. And it's a click, it's a call, it's a sign up, it's a purchase. It's not like the most beautiful edit or work of art in the world, right? And so that's where, defining what good looks like is important. Like when you and I worked together, good didn't mean it was like super pretty or beautiful. It could be, but good meant it drove revenue. It got people curious. Like it actually did something with its targeted audience. And so I think that's where we need to realign as partners on like what success looks like. It's not creating something beautiful, which it can be done, but really, did it drive revenue? Did it resonate with its audience? Was it intentional? Those kinds of things.
And see, here's another thing that I will go on, like reframing beautiful. I just listened to this podcast, or maybe it was Instagram stories or something like that. But essentially this artist talking about how he disagreed with Rick Rubin. Do you know Rick Rubin?
Yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah. Who doesn't, right? Mea culpa. So like, and Rick Rubin has this sort of mystique of, go up on this mountain and create this art and create it just for you and flourish and flow. And this artist was pushing back that was like, one, Rick, the way that you've gotten into the space is you created highly successful commercial content, right? Like you got into this place creating things that like billions and millions of people love, right? And so you going up into this mountain where you can't breathe, where it's cold, where you can't survive by your own, to create a sound that only you hear, that only you care about, is actually very useless. You coming down from that mountain, stepping into the village and telling a story, singing a song, creating art that brings the village together, that is beauty. So like, that's the difference between commercial and sort of this like self-aggrandizing, pure art. And so when I even like to push back on like, what is beautiful? I think one of the most beautiful ads in the history of ads to me is Squatty Potty. Like the unicorn on a conveyor belt pooping out ice cream onto a cone. Like, and the fact that like this little plastic stool had this weird, disgusting sort of ad that resonated with millions of people. It was so weird. It was so off-putting. But also think about it, when you get down into the weeds of that, it actually changed the way that a lot of people use the restroom which we've been doing for a very long time since we had toys, of like, hey, this is actually super unhealthy. You should have a stool. You should like, and I bought one. And then I was like, oh, do I need a bidet as well? Like, have I been doing this all wrong? And I was like, great, I've actually been using the restroom wrong. Like, is that not gorgeous? Like, is that not beautiful?
Yeah. So that's a great point, right? So for me, beautiful is subjective, and I don't like judging on subjectivity, right? So what I would say with what you said, like that's a common understanding of what good looks like. Another example for me is like the first Dollar Shave Club video. I don't know if you've ever saw it, and like it was like hilarious. It was one of the
Yeah.
most funny at the time, one of the funniest 1 minute spots on YouTube that you could find, right?
Yeah.
And so because it was intentional, it created curiosity, like all the things, it hit on all the human emotions that it want to hit on. And I think
That
that's
was that the Harmon brothers? I think that was like the first of the Harmon brothers, which became like a big purple Casper. Like, I think that Dollar Shave Club, that initial one, taught brands for like 3 or 4 years that like you could be funny. And a lot of these like startup D2C brands started running funny stuff like that. We did it at Sunbasket. And so I'll
yeah.
save that story for a little bit later. But yeah,
Yeah.
sorry I cut you off.
No. Yeah, and so I think it's that, to your point, like what you described is how businesses and how creative teams should define beautiful, right? But people think that there's this, I Rick Rubin did it for decades, so whatever he says, he could fart and then be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's potpourri." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right with you. So going back to working with creatives, when have you been most successful, and what is it that you look for in partners?
I would say the most successful was at Sunbasket. And I want to like set the tone. Sunbasket was a meal kit company. We came out, Blue Apron was pretty big, but there was a point in time where there was something like 80 to 90 meal kit companies. We were in California. I was there before we even expanded nationally. Um, working out of a loft in San Francisco, like watching the team cook and not being able to eat the food. So like very, very early. And now you look back and you're like, of course that business is successful. But there was many, many times where like, oh, we don't like, how do we stand out? And so we had basically really, really good food photography. Our difference was like we make really good food, but like our images of our food are going to be absolutely gorgeous. And they were, but that is not a moat. Taking absolutely gorgeous pictures of food is not a moat. And where there was 50 to 60 other meal kit companies competing, all of them had really beautiful food. And the comments started to be like, these are all the same. These are all different. And so this is the same team that transitioned the organic team to performance. And where I saw it sort of shift, and this is when the relationship was the best, is that we understood each other's incentives and roles. We were all had the exact same incentive. We want performance to be great. The performance team, the creative team that had only done organic, was coming to my team on Monday being like, which ad was the top performer? What was the view through rate? Has our CPA dropped? Like asking those types of critical questions, which I've rarely heard. I don't think I've ever heard from another creative team since. And my team was going to them with like 6 to 7 different ideas around like how we can optimize this creative. And by my, like me as well, all coming in with different ideas of like, okay, this is how we can like change this, shift this, etc. And it was so symbiotic of just like, we want this to work well. And there was one critical moment. The executive team went on an what's it called? Offsite. And once again, the brilliance of Amy. I think Amy, something about Magic Mike. I'm not going to do the super specifics. She's a mother. She's a wonderful person, but I don't know. Maybe there was something in the car that had her hype, and she came up, or the team came up with this thing called Mr. February. And so during the new year, it's the biggest time for us, and we're doing resolutions, healthy eating, and the majority of people do not make it to February with their resolutions. And so we all sat down and sort of thought through this idea, and they went to go shoot this content. And so they shoot this shirtless wrestler jumping out of a box, doing finger guns, confetti. It's ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And talking, he had the wrestler voice of like, you're going to make it to February, that type of thing. It was so silly. But everyone was so excited. The creative team was excited. The marketing team was excited, or the performance team was excited. We get it all chopped up. We get it out there and it flops. It flops hard. It's so bad. We couldn't get $1 spent behind it. Like bad comments, all those other things, right? And this is where I say like the best team or the best creative that I've worked with is we didn't like throw it away. There was no blame. There was no anger. There was nothing of that. There was panic. There was like, let's move fast. Let's do urgency. How do we make this work? Cool. We chopped it up 50 different ways. Tried to launch it again. Didn't work. And then we had our Facebook rep, and our Facebook rep came in and was essentially like, hey, you're not doing this right. Like, Facebook is sound off. Shift it this way. Shift it just a bit. We shifted it a bit, $1 million in spend, $1 million in spend in a month. It became the top 3, 4, 5 different iterations of that creative for months. It was the best performing, and is probably a core reason of how the business was able to differentiate itself and sort of survive the meal kit culling that happened. And like comments of people being like, this is hilarious. This is great. Love this. This food is like, that was the difference. And so I think what I learned in that moment, and what I learned working with that team, or I've seen it sort of work best, is one, everyone was incredibly aligned. Like there wasn't I want to be creative, I want to be, I want performant. No, we all wanted the thing to perform. That's what success was. It's spending money and driving conversions. Cool. Now we have space to be silly. We went from beautiful food photography to half naked man oiled up, jumping out of a box with confetti, right? And like, you're a creative, you're a leader, making that leap. I'm sure there was a lot of discussions that I wasn't in that was like, let's just try something. Let's go for it. And then it bombed and we just kept going, right? We just pivoted. There was no blame. There was like, did you do this wrong? No. We just tried to fix it. And we got some help from Meta, and like we fixed it, and it was super, super successful. And it's the ad I reference at every company I go into when we're talking about creative of like, hey, I'm not putting any limits on you. Like you can create whatever ads you want to create.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's in the world of sameness. How are you going to differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
Right. And that was the thing that did it. So knowing that, what is it when it was least successful? What were the blockers to success? And it's almost like the flip side of that coin, but I think it's still worth being explicit about when it didn't work.
Yeah. This one I won't reference a specific organization. It's less of a fun story.
Good idea.
This place sucked. No, I think like it is that initial, once again, when I push back against stakeholder. There were two totally different goals. There's a creative team that wanted to preserve the brand, and like, and I put this in quotes, preserving the brand is important. Let me not be a hater, but as performance marketers who are just trying to like hit a green button, preserving the brand is the most painful, annoying like sentence that we get from our creative teams. So there's a team that was so rigorous around preserving the brand, and essentially like the leadership on that team took it on as like, we're the brand police. And one, let's not get too political, but like police have not been great for a long time. I don't know why you'd want to sign up to be the popo. Like just, I don't know what that is, but like do your research. You could choose something better. And so like them being the brand police, and now the relationship with this team that is like our lifeblood, it is absolutely essential, is now confrontational. And so everything that we prep, everything that we do, we are going into that meeting essentially being like, ugh, are they going to shoot this down? Ugh, are they good? Like, did we navigate all of these other things? So how are you creative in that space? And then when the stuff doesn't work, this is where it's the worst. And I've done this before, and let's be more evolved humans. Shout out to Darwish. You then get a little bit petty, right? Like that brand thing that we told you wasn't going to work, that we had to wait 8 weeks to get, didn't work. Can I please do this other thing now? And I think that is a, really unhealthy, unfun, toxic situation. And so I think for good creative, you have to be fast. Honestly, good creative, you have to be fast. I would say that is a critical function of being good creative. And I think, like, as we've found with the police, not that fast. So if you set yourself up as the brand police, you are probably slowing things down. You're making things harder. When in actuality, like, your job is to make this faster, better, and like help give us the training to give you good ideas, to partner, to give you the information that you need so that you can go fast.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I'm a brand purist, but to a point, right? Like if you want to be, to your point, fast and nimble and you want to learn quickly, you have to be okay with coloring outside the lines, at least to learn, right? So if you find a concept that works, great. If you ran everything through the brand lens first, it, to your point, it'd take you like 8 weeks to test one thing. But
Yeah.
if you were a little bit looser, you stuck to the most part, for the most part, to the brand, but you tried things. I would argue any Super Bowl commercial you've ever seen was not brand friendly because usually they're making fun of something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're usually going off brand to create that stimulating moment, right? So if you're not willing to do that, then you are likely going to spend a lot of cycles, money, and all this stuff and learning very little because your unwillingness to go beyond the brand. So even though, and people, I may get negative comments and may get pushback, fine, but I've been responsible for brand in a lot of places, and it didn't mean we had a bad brand. It just meant we moved quickly. And were some things, did some things go out there that weren't perfect? Absolutely. But Erica said this. We both, Erica, shout out from out school.
Love her.
But something I live by too is don't let perfect be enemy of good. If you could get something good out there and learn from it quickly, then what's stopping? Is it worth not learning to just make sure that the tone is right, or like the colors are right, or the person in the videos wearing the right color or right shade of purple? It's not worth all that to learn and be quick.
Very true. And let me give some daps to you. The Sunbasket example is so great, but I think what you and I discussed previous to this meeting was I was talking about how much I loved working with the creative team that you built. And I'm very big on saying the names because I think people need their flowers as often as they can get it. We'll call them the Alexes. Alex on your team, Alex on my team, both work together to put together a lot of the performance creative. And I think one of the things that was, once again, actually incredibly organic at Outschool and with you and the team sort of that you built is you put some rigor, real rigor into the SLAs of delivery, but you had less rigor or less constraint on the creativity of the ideas that came out. And so Alex and Alex basically got in a room together and we're like, what is, remotely, what is fun? What does this mean? What works? And I think that symbiotic shared ownership of how can we be creative? Because surprise, surprise, creatives are not the only people that are creative, right? And so Alex, who's brilliant marketer who could do 1,000 different things and will probably end up being a founder and building something amazing. Yeah, he can come up with really good creative ideas. And Alex and Alex is confusing. Alex understands our business, understands our customers, understands these channels. And so they could now help level each other up to create something really beautiful. And as we were talking about this, I'll do a little behind the scenes for the people on this podcast. I was like, I let Alex and Alex go. I barely checked their work. And Rico's like, I did. I checked. I made sure it was still good enough to snuff. But honestly, there was 1,000 other things that I needed to do. And so like I could let them legitimately have fun and collaborate and trust that my partner, you and them, are going to make sure that, we don't get egg on our face. And I think that is like the dream. That is the dream.
Yeah, and it helped that you and I and Alex B and Alex got together, and we actually put together a test,
Our
a test
roadmap. Yeah. Yeah.
framework. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're like, these are the things we're gonna test, right? We're gonna test messaging, we're gonna test live action, animation, like all the different things that we were gonna test, and that helped them at least use a framework. And okay, these are the parameters we want to test, but test anything you want within these parameters, right?
Yep.
And it gave them a little bit of direction without giving them a roadmap, right? So like they were able to go hit their bookings goal any way they thought they could, and here are the ways that we'd want you to experiment.
Yep.
So it was a
The
great
other
partnership.
the other thumbs up that I'll give to you is when we were talking earlier about like going fast. Fast is just absolutely essential, right? Like you want to get as much test. And I think where I found is some creative teams are very, especially the ones that are very precious about the brand, where they don't want to sort of share, and they're, the custodians of this thing and they're really rigorous. They're also a custodian of like getting it executed. And there were multiple times where like, oh, you guys are going too slow. And Rio's like, okay, go somewhere else. Like, get it done. We trust you. We're here to help you. What do you need from us? But like, if you have a resource or you can figure this out, or we need to bring in another resource so that you can go faster, like, let's do it. And I think once again, that sort of goes to the we all were sort of owners of like, we need to push this business forward. We need to drive results. And so how do we get to drive results, right? If you were the stakeholder for like really good creative, then like you would actually not be incentivized to like outsource creative production. You'd be like, nope, I need to build my team in-house. But no, you're like, I am a part of a team to like make this business run. And so like, cool. If we got to go outside, like let's go outside, because that's core of making the business run.
Absolutely. So I want to now shift a little bit into your background again. And one of the other thing that we like to highlight on this podcast is some inequities, DEIB, things like that. Like I'm a person of color, you're a person of color. I've talked to my audience about the struggles that I faced and the things that I had to go through. So before we get into advice for folks, what are some things that you had to struggle with and work through? And are there things that you still struggle with today as a person of color trying to navigate this marketing executive landscape?
Sure. There's so I grew up all over, but I grew up predominantly in the South, moving around a lot. My dad was in the military and the FBI. And, as I've moved to the Bay and I've been in different parts, I've talked to people about sort of race, what it is to be a black man here, what it is to be a black man from the South here, what it is to be a black man in tech. And I've always been like, I prefer Southern racism. And when I was growing up, we had a neighbor, and just like cutting through his grass would cut 20 minutes off of our walk to the bus stop. But all the other kids in the neighborhood could cut through his grass. But like if my sister and I did it, he would like yell at us. He would tell our parents, he'd be like, you're ruining our grass. You need to pay for this grass, etc. And I was like, that's not fair. I see other kids walking through the grass all the time. And then I look in his backyard, and I didn't understand at this point in time. I think I was like, I don't know, 7 or 8. He had like a huge Confederate flag in his backyard. And I was like, cool. Okay, now I get it. I understand. I get that. And that is dope. Like, you need Ku Klux Klan wearing Confederate flag, more power to you. Go off. See you in hell. I don't know, whatever. It is the like insidious things where you're questioning yourself that brings up that imposter syndrome when you go into the room and you say something and then you're given feedback of, or you hear someone else say the same thing that you said, and you're like, wait, did I, was I wrong? Was I not heard? When you walk into a room, I remember this early in my career. This happened relatively at Sunbasket, and I think we're just referencing something, and I was like, oh, that's just a stack a month. And like everyone sort of looked at me crazy, and I was like, 1,000. Sorry, that's 1,000 a month. And so it's like, cool. I need to do a little bit of code switching. I need to be a little bit thoughtful about sort of my presentation, I need to be a little bit thoughtful about how I carry myself in these spaces, because whether they know it or don't know it, there are going to be microaggressions. There are going to be these biases that we are not even aware of. I actually caught myself, the horrible thing that happened in Baltimore with the bridge and the collapse, and looking at Twitter and sort of all of these people talking about the mayor and being racist towards the mayor. And I looked at the video, or I looked at the picture of the mayor, and it's like this young sort of black guy in a bomber jacket. And I was like, oh, he doesn't really look like a mayor. And then I turned on the video expecting him to sound like not fitting the thing. And he was great. It was eloquent. And eloquent is stupid, but anyways, he was great. He was a great mayor. He's dealing with a crisis. And I was like, oh crap. I see a black man in a bomber, and I'm expecting him to like sound like Baltimore or Hood or something like that. And I'm black. And I went to Howard. Like, I spent a lot of time in Baltimore. So like, if I got this, I know you got this. And so I think that is sort of the number one thing of your like second guessing yourself, walking into the room, being like, is this a room that I need to navigate? Or is this a room that I'm going to be like celebrated and experienced? As well as like, I have been either the most senior or the only black person at every tech startup that I've been at. And I'm not old enough to be the most senior. There should be way more accomplished black people than me. And then being the only is always like ridiculous. Like, I'll look at a LinkedIn, I'll apply, or I'll want to consult with a company, then I'll look at the LinkedIn of the whole team having fun in the Bay. And I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Like,
Yeah, it's something that, if you aren't from a minority background, you don't really truly understand what that feels like. And there's things that I won't understand, rooms you walk in, and probably things about, Asian Americans that you won't understand. And I think that's the thing we all need to be open about and really lean into is there. I don't know that I'll ever know them all, but I can be sensitive and be aware and even ask questions. Right.
yeah. Shout out to Erica, the best. Erica is one of the few bosses that has come to me, and and Amy to a certain extent as well, but like checked on me, asked me like, did I screw up? Like, was that okay? Was that, and like very humbly. And then on the other side of like making space for people, I have seen so much misogyny and sexism, especially in like leadership. And I don't know how this happened, but like primarily, I think every company that I've been at, the CMO, the head of marketing is always white women, and they're always sort of, the founder has always been sort of a white man. And even seeing the dynamics in there, and I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, how can I help you? How can I speak up as a man? How can I like support you in doing this and like taking this space? So I think I cut you off a little bit, but I very much agree with you. Like, seeing it, see something, say something, and like not let it be okay. Can I do one more little story?
Yeah, please.
This is the thing. So this is, once again, love Outschool, love the people that I worked with. We had an executive offsite, and this was during sort of the George Floyd and how do we talk about this to the organization. And so we're all sort of sitting in a room talking about like, how do we roll this out? And I was like, why do we care if we offend racist people? Like, we're in America. We've been here long enough that like us saying that like racism and police brutality is bad, if it like ruffles a couple feathers, why do we care? And like, speaking to us not ruffling those feathers, those people are ruffling the feathers of our Black and brown and women who are at this company who have to deal with it all the time anyways. So like, let's just speak up. And this is my love of Outschool, was like, and perfect sort of like adulthood of how you manage these things is everyone like this. Oh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. That makes sense. Huh. Why were we thinking about it that way? Cool. Let's go. Let's push out. Let's do this. And like that type of like quick switch, like it really is, like very, very easy to like go right.
Yeah, it just it was great. Just the moral compass of that group, and it was critical race theory, like a lot of things that were controversial for other people to talk about. But as a
Love
leadership,
Amir's LinkedIn.
yeah, we didn't
Love
even like
Amir's
think twice
LinkedIn. Yeah.
about any of that. Yeah, and
Oh,
Mir absolutely will
oh my
take it
gosh.
in the face for what he
Yeah,
believes
yeah.
in.
Oh my gosh. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan. I'm like,
Yeah.
he's so, yeah. I'm like proud to be an alumnus of that organization.
Yeah, and I guess the even the greater thing for people listening is whether you believe it or not, we all have privilege. And for us to leverage our privilege to raise other voices is the right thing to do, right? So what access do we have that we can lend, we can give, we can support others with? Because that's how we really make a difference. Like we can talk about these things till we're blue in the face or whatever the term is, but if we don't take action to really help each other use our privilege to elevate others, then what is it all for? It's just a bunch of talk, right? So
Facts.
yeah, taking action is the main thing. So if you want to take anything away from this conversation between Eric and I, take action, use your privilege, collaborate, work
Yeah.
together, make the world a better place, right? Because that is your mission. Um, so now I want to lighten it up a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm sure we could talk for an hour just on that.
Yeah.
But knowing what you know now, what advice getting into creative, getting into marketing would you give? Maybe not the 7-year-old Eric crossing the grass, but maybe the 16 or 18-year-old Eric that's thinking about what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Invest in Bitcoin. And when you hear about this young lady named Rihanna, just go for it. Immediately go for it with your Bitcoin millions. That's where your future is. No, I think so. There's this insidious, and it comes out of therapy and like all these other things, but like my general perspective or sort of what I've come to in therapy is like there is sort of our true self, and then we build our ego on top of it, right? And as we build our ego on top of it, our ego is basically dictated on our surroundings. So if you're in a really hard environment, then you might be really hard. If you're in a very soft environment, you'll be soft, et cetera, et cetera. And so you build on top of that, and inevitably some of that, it's sort of like calcifies. You get stuck, you stop growing, you stop changing, you stop learning. And so you have to now strip that ego down to better understand, like, one, why did I have this? And then two, does it actually still serve me? And so one of the really insidious things of like imposter syndrome is you are not, you don't feel safe because you are not safe. Like corporate America is not your family. These companies are not your family. These people who you work with are not your family, and family's hard, right? And so I think I came into this with this concept of I want to fit. I want to make myself fit into this situation. And I was hard headed and slow and stupid when parts of me that were actually valuable did not fit with like the organization or the team or the structure of that. And I was frustrated because I was like, okay, I need to now bend this other piece of me versus understanding how to tell the story of the beauty of that piece of me. And so when I think of marketing, when I think of advertising, when I think of like what we do, we have conversations. That is our job. Our job is to have conversations. And so reading, I forget the name of the author, but sort of the famous book on nonviolent communication has utterly changed the way that I converse in my personal life, in my professional life. It has given me more empathy. It has given me more kindness. It has given me more space. It has given me more patience. And like that has manifested in my work. The way that I manage is utterly different than the way that I managed before. The way that I take direction is utterly different than the way that I took direction before. The way that I collaborate is utterly different, right? Like I come into a collaboration with you, or I come into an organization or consulting or working with someone, and my job is to understand what makes you happy and then get you there. Like that's it. My success is your joy. That is a beautiful way to approach work. Versus, I would say the first 10 years of my career is my success is my success. That puts you at like confrontation and differences. And so I think if I could go back and talk to little Eric, and I have some mentees who are younger Black men in this space, of like, dedicate yourself to joy in everything that you do, in everyone that you work with. And it is damn near impossible to like give pure joy to others and not feel it yourself. And so I think, yeah, that's a little bit like esoteric, a little bit touchy feely, but I do think it's sort of the root from which the tree springs, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's how I'm glad you said that. I'm glad that's the piece of advice that you give, because that's how I approach everything I do now, right? It was always, yes, it was in service of others, but it wasn't because I enjoyed it, right? It's because like I had to do it for my job, or there was a have to do attached to it. But now I get to help people out of the sheer joy of helping them create whatever it is they want, whether it's their business, their life, their career. I get to do that now, and it's so much more rewarding. Doesn't feel like work, and I'm not like stressed out and losing
Yeah.
sleep over some deliverable I have at the next day.
I want to push back a little bit there.
Sure.
I want to, which like I've worked with you, and I will say for the audience, working with Rico is essentially like working with Buddha. Of like Rico and Eric could be like, Eric, you're stressed. You need to like sleep. You need to cut this camera off. You need to do this thing, and he's just sort of floating through like doing amazing work and helping people, and like you're like, oh crap, why am I not like that light? And so maybe this is like an evolution. I still have many more steps to go, which is great, right? Like if you stop growing, you die. I think it's okay for work to feel like work. I think it's okay to struggle. I think it's okay to suffer. No, but I think it's okay to struggle. I think it's okay to have late nights. I think it's okay to have early mornings. I would walk on glass for my mother. If there was like, if she wanted a glass of lemonade, and actually this just happened, she had like a little bit of a health thing, and I was like, cool, I'm driving. She's perfectly fine, but like I drove for 7 hours, hated it the entire time. It sucked. Listened to podcasts, but I was like, no, I'm gonna show up, and I'm actually gonna go. And I just talked to her, and she's like I was like, cool, I'm gonna get in the car, I'm gonna drive down for 7 hours, and I'm gonna come visit you because like your joy is so important. And so like I do think that there is this. It can feel like work. It can feel like suffer or struggling. It can feel crappy. Can I use profanity?
Too late. We have been.
Too late. Yeah. It can feel a little bit shitty, but like and very specifically, like for Erica or for Rico, there were many times where I was like, ugh, I am like tired and struggling, but this is for them. Like I need to show up to make sure that they're set up for success. I want them to be like really successful. And that was super duper motivating versus like, am I going to keep my job? Like, F this job. I'm so tired. Like, that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing. And I'm glad you clarified, right, on that. And yeah, it's not all, butterflies and roses, right? There is struggle. There's challenge in everything that we do, right? As long as it's for the greater good at the end of the day. So I want to get into what you're up to now. I know you have a book referral. We'll get that to that later. But what are you up to now? What are you doing? How can people work with you if they want to work with you?
I am consulting right now. So working with a couple of organizations really coming in and doing like audits and helping them with their growth program. So like, if you want to talk marketing, if you want to get into get into it and see if I can help you with your growth, primarily on like performance marketing data, those types of things, great, hit me up. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm sure there'll be a link or something dropped. I didn't get the little cool white father leader creative coach. I could have put like fantastic hairline and great style, something like that. But yeah, and then I'm working on a couple of my own ideas. I have an app that should release in the next couple weeks, dependent on like our ability to sort of get the last little bit of it built. But there's a lot of love in it, and I think it's one of those things that like I have no expectation of success, but the doing has been beautiful and learning, and now exploring some other ideas that it's really exciting when things suck. Like, I think there's this really dope opportunity when things are bad. If you look at Airbnb, if you look at basically all of these companies, right? You look at cars, you look at horses. Like, there was a guy who was walking around and being like, this sucks. Why don't I jump on that big old thing and ride its back? Like, yeah, that's a little bit better. And then someone's like, this sucks. Maybe we should get into a car. So like, I've been helping and consulting with some companies, and honestly, a lot of the stuff that they do sucks. And I'm like, wait, I think I can fix this. So I'm like working on something that's a little bit closer to the chest right now. But yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
and whatever you can share, we'll share in the show notes, and then
Yeah.
whenever it drops, we'll update the show notes.
Great.
But there's this thing. I have a book recommendation because I've been reading
Yeah.
this, listening. I'm an audiobook person, and that you might find interesting. And I teased it on Instagram and some of the other channels, but it's called $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan.
Okay. I'm
He's
gonna take
the
notes on that
founder
one.
and CEO of AppSumo. So yeah, it's really about, like, you will know this really well. It's using that A/B kind of methodology to test your startup product in
Yeah.
48 hours to test its viability, to
Oh,
actually make sales and get all the things. And one of the questions he asked is, you know, he just sees the world and like all the problems he can solve.
yeah.
So even just today, what were 3 things that sucked for you today? Those are 3
Great.
business ideas, right? So like
That's fantastic.
that's
Yeah.
as quick as you can do it. And then a way to test it is call your friends, call 10 people, and if they will they will Venmo you $1 to say like, yeah, I'll buy this product from you. Like, say it's like you don't want to go to the gym by yourself, so you have this app that'll pair you with someone to go to the gym with, right?
Yeah.
If you call 10 people and they say, oh yeah, here's $1 if you match me with somebody to go to the gym with, and now
Yeah.
you've proven that people will pay you for something, and then you go build it, right? So
That's
and if you
that's
can't
actually
get,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, and if you can't get like $100 in 48 hours, then this is probably not a good, that's not probably not a viable business idea.
Okay. Well, now I have to get the book this weekend and then try next weekend, and you'll be one of the people I text.
Yeah.
I do have a book recommendation as well. It would have been a little bit better flowing into the conversation, but I reference it a lot, and it's like, if I could leave this advice for any founder, PM, really anyone who's like working and building and doing these types of things. Uh, this is Murakami's Thoughts While Running, and he has been running marathons for a very long time. He's very, very fit, and he started getting to these triathlons. And he was talking about like training for triathlons, and he was like, he was a weaker swimmer, strong runner, strong biker. And so he spent a significant amount of time like working on his swimming to like make that better. But he realized, and he would do that separately. But as he started training for the actual full triathlon, he realized that one of the core issues that he was having was his transition from swimming to getting on the bike. And he was like, when I swim, I would like try to get on the bike as quickly as possible. And so he spent like a lot of time basically figuring out, okay, how do I get off my gears? How do I take these things off? He's like, how do I dry myself off? How do I rinse myself with water so I don't have salinated water drying me out? How do I make sure that there's no water in my shoes as I like go in and hook into the bike? How do I get the gears right? And all of these things. And so he like worked at that for a week or so of just super focusing so that he could know essentially when he needs to go slow to go fast. And so if there's, I've seen this come up so much in companies that I've worked with, companies that I've consulted with, startups, etc. Fast is a religion. You need to go fast. You need to go fast. Everything needs to go fast. And I will tell you, fast is incredibly dangerous. Fast will get you killed. Knowing when to go slow, knowing when to change your gears, when you're going to transition into something else, and how to do that really effectively, I think those slow moments are very, very, very critical. And the way, the how is, I think, where you go slow, not the what, the how is the sort of major opportunity. So when I am consulting and doing that work, quite often the rubber hits the road of I'm like, hey, I know you want to go fast, but you actually need to slow down because how we're doing this can be improved 300% if we take an extra 3 weeks. Or we could keep going and we could do it 10 times. And there are founders who are like, great, let's do it 10 times and we'll get to the same thing. I'm like, that comes with exhaustion, blah, blah, blah. So that's my book recommendation. I'm just a big fan of like, slow down. Not all the time, but finding when to slow down is like absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you hear, so it is cliche. Sometimes you have to go you slow down to go fast, right? But there's some weight behind. That's why it's a cliche because there's some
Yeah,
truth to it, right?
it's very true.
I absolutely agree with it. And anyone who wants to pick that up, I'll link both of these books in the show notes. So
Right.
we'll for sure get those recommendations out. Um, and I know we're at time. I want to have you back, and I want to talk more about
Great.
some of these other things like
I'll follow
people
up
of
after I do my
color.
millionaire weekend.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, we'll do a follow up on the Manor weekend. But just to wrap up, any last pieces of advice, anything before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think here's an overall piece of advice. So I've been really lucky. Like Outschool ended with layoffs. It's really hard in this job market, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been like exceedingly blessed to have the opportunity to have some consulting clients. And so one of the things that I found is that as I'm talking to people who are looking for jobs, as I'm talking to people who are looking, they're bumping up against all of these walls, right? It's so hard to get a referral. It's so hard to like talk to someone. It's so hard to like get in the door. And that's ridiculous. We all are, we are all navigating this thing together. And so like, if you are blessed enough to have a job, and let me tell you, you are blessed. I've seen exceedingly talented people laid off. It is your job, it is your purpose to like help others, right? So like get in your other box on LinkedIn. It takes an hour a week, 10 minutes a day. Just go respond. Look at these resumes. Give them a quick review. Help refer them in. Help them find a job. I think like right now, how we show up critically is so essential. And I think that there's still a little bit of ego left. And like it feels very reminiscent of the coal miners when like a couple of years ago it's like, well, coal's going out. Who works in coal? This is silly. Like AI is coming. Like AI is coming. Things are shrinking. The white collar worker, like some of these jobs are going away and they are not coming back. And so like how we show up for each other, like the fact that there's no real tech union, there's none of that. Like cool, great, fine, but like let's show up. Like let's help each other. So if you need some help, if you need a referral, if you want someone to look at your resume, if you want to just like talk and practice on a project, try to do a case study together, something like that, I am here. I'm available. I'm here to help you. Like, please, please, please reach out, whoever you are.
Yeah, love that. Love that.
+5
And
if you're like black or a black woman. Sorry. But like definitely reach out.
yeah, no, I love that. I mean, that's what I've found with all the guests that I've had, like you, they've been gracious with their time and it's the with heart part, right? And you mentioned AI, and the thing that AI will not be able to recreate, maybe at least not in our lifetimes, is humanity, right? Like how we treat each other as humans, right? That's the thing that those are the jobs and those are the things that AI will not be able to take over,
Yeah.
right?
Once it
Yeah,
does, it's game over. We've seen movies. Like
we,
once AI creates humanity, it's a wrap. We're out the door anyways. Now we're in the Terminator Salvation
right.
life.
Um, but yeah, so like that's the thing, and I'm glad you put yourself out there. I'm always out there for anyone who needs help, support, whatever you need. We're just an email, DM, a message away. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Like, we're here to help. So on that
Absolutely.
note, thank you, Eric, for taking the time to
Thank
be here,
you.
and walking us through all the stuff. It was amazing. Thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Create Leadership with Heart. Reach out to Eric if you need some. I'm always here for you. RicoNasal.com. Take care. See you next time.
Say it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Creative Leadership with Heart. If you enjoyed the show, please like and subscribe. If you're ready to make huge, lasting change in your life, then what are you waiting for? What will your life look like if you took action today? What would it look like if you didn't? If you're serious and you're ready, book your free strategy session today and let's make your future a reality.